how many of you are familiar with what reach and engagement means? Yeah? Great, I think, I mean, for the benefit of everyone, reach is essentially how many people have been, have noticed or spent time on your content, and engagement is the number of people who have essentially liked, commented, clicked, or spent time on a video that you've shared. So if you can look at these are the different types of content vehicles that you can share on Facebook, and the kind of reach and engagement you get on video versus the others. And this has nothing to do with how Facebook prioritizes its content. Like I just explained to you, newsfeed goes with audience preferences, and looks like in 90% of the cases, audience preferences videos. And that's why a discussion on video best practices becomes a very important one and a central one to what we're trying to share here. What I'm going to share through the next few slides is essentially a few sort of best practices and some product ideas that we've seen work really well. Imagine your experience on the newsfeed as you're scrolling through your phone, and like I said, 95% of the consumption of Facebook happens on a mobile device. As you're scrolling through the screen, you just give a few seconds to determine you're going to spend some time on that video or not. And that's why we call it the first 3 seconds of it. And a very strong recommendation we make, especially to video producers, is that just make sure that when you're sharing something on a social media like Facebook, your first 3 seconds are full of activity, full of energy, and it draws attention. Because if you lose attention in that first 3 seconds from their audience, chances are they'll move on to the next story that's available for them. Autoplay has been a massive driver for video consumption, and a lot of times we've seen that people prefer to consume autoplay content on their own. And that's why, as producers, we need to keep in mind that autoplay renders a different kind of experience to your audience. And that's why a lot of times, if the content is not going to be explanatory itself, you might want to include text captions within the video, which essentially take the audience through the journey of what the video is going to talk about. So like I said, consider the experience with sound off, lots of motion in the first few frames to draw attention, and launching views directly into the content are the few best practices on video. Like I said, I mean, from the numbers that we've seen, launching directly into the content versus going through a few slates in the beginning, leads to 4x more views for video content. And for some reason the video is not playing here, but then again, I mean, something that I already talked about, text overlay along with sound graphics that provide some kind of context to your audience. This is an important one. Even before somebody clicks or spends time, the first impression of the content that you shared is going to be the thumbnail that you're going to use. And that's why optimizing it for the experience and graphics is going to be, optimizing especially for the mobile screens is going to be very important for your content. A few examples of how you can leverage videos. So I'm not sure if these are like, I'm sure that you spend a lot of time on Facebook and you might have seen a lot of these examples. I'm going to share a few case studies where all of this has happened for promoting a few short films and a few small movies. And that's why let me just quickly walk through this. A lot of interactions with audience where essentially you get to interact with your fans or through a live video or a live event, Facebook Live. Performances. A lot of times, in fact, you would have seen that a lot of times within Facebook, we've organized events and performances for audience and jam sessions. These are all like recommendations we make to our partners on how can you leverage. So I think let me just quickly breeze through these slides because I'm going to cover that in the last section of case studies where I want to spend a lot more time instead. How often should I post is a very relevant question that we get, and really the answer is that there's no magic. Chances are that you're probably posting less than what we recommend you for. So what we recommend to our partners is to generally just try and increase the amount of posts that they are making every day without letting the quality of that content suffer. We understand that producing content of high quality every day, every week is difficult work, and that's why we don't ask that you should share a lot of times or 100 times or 80 times. We've seen partners go from 8 to 80 times per day, but But we recommend any number of times that you think that you have a content that you'd like to share, you should go ahead and share that content. The reason is that newsfeed doesn't work the way a lot of other algorithms work. It is probably not going to be shown to a lot of audience depending on their choice. So really don't think that you're going to spam your audience. I'm going to quickly cover live. I'm sure that you're familiar with this experience. We launched this a couple of years back, and since then it's grown phenomenally. And it's a platform that people really love for several reasons. There's a short video which essentially takes you through a few examples of live.
Hi, what's up? I feel like you're watching me. Hello?
Hey guys, Felicia here. Trying the live thing again on Facebook. What up, Facebook?
Look at that, fella. We're at 7,000 people online right now. This is scary.
Once upon a time, if you wanted to reach people live like this, it took a massive satellite truck. It took dozens of people, hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I'm doing this on a phone.
This is very exciting. I'm gonna abuse this to no end. This is kind of the first chance I've had to have an app that really lets me really connect with you guys and be here.
We are here, we are live around the world. It's the very first time that Facebook is using technology. It's pretty cool.
Okay, let's go now. We're talking to everybody.
I'm in the bath. Just want to see if it works in the bath. That's it, really. It does.
This is actually live. Hey.
About 1.5 million views, which is mental.
I'm going to skip that video in a bit because I just want to make sure that you cover everything. But this is a really fun, interactive tool that is available to you for using to reaching out to your audience. Already 1 in 5 videos on Facebook is a live broadcast, and 4x the daily time spent of watching Facebook. The time spent has grown 4x by watching live videos, is the right way to put this in. And these are some statistics that prove that people love live, which I've already shared, but I think what is immediately important to understand is essentially why is live such an amazing platform for you. Alright, thank you. Like I talked about immersiveness of content and media, live is probably the next step from videos to make the content a lot more immersive. It makes the audience feel a part of the story as it's developing because they are really live with you and they are watching you live. It brings a unique perspective because up until now, people have experienced a very filtered, a very post-production introduced content, and this basically puts you right in front of the audience without any, and that's why the authenticity also comes in. It allows for social connection because it is essentially an actual interaction that is happening with a fan. Please don't think of live as something which only works in case of actors and actresses engaging with their audience. We've seen it work for production houses. We have seen it work for news. We have seen it work for all kinds of use cases that you can imagine. There are a couple of additional features that make live even more cooler, and one of them is live with, which essentially allows you to engage an existing audience to join you in the live, or to essentially go live with another part. So if you really imagine a production, it's basically a combination of several stakeholders coming together to produce a content. And that's why enabling and encouraging all of them to be a part of the entire promotion is what live with allows you to do. And there are a few examples that we'll probably cover during the case study. So like I said, you can either go live with a friend, which is essentially a co-star or somebody like a participant in the ecosystem, or add a guest through the comments that are happening. Something that's probably is a lot more useful and interactive for people in this room is the live API, which essentially allows you to do a lot of cool stuff which is probably not possible while going live with your mobile phone. A lot of times you see that live is used in a real-time basis with the phone, but it also allows you So Live API essentially allows you to integrate your streaming software along with the live, so as to ensure that you can set up a professional experience along with the live device, along with the live event that you're doing. A new way for developers and publishers to build immersive and interactive live experience on videos. So it allows you for having multiple audio and video sources, special effects, and comment moderation, and also allows you to have on-screen graphics and text. So let's talk about a few case studies. And I think I'm covering one in detail. We've got a few more that I can share with you. And that's, I'm sure that you've heard about this film. Have you? Of course. Tiska Chopra's Chutney went on to win the Short Films Award in Filmfare, but Tiska really started working with us on promoting the movie a lot more in advance before launching the movie itself. We were working with Tiska for at least 2 or 3 months before the actual release to ensure that there was enough buzz around the content. I'll show you a few examples of what I just talked about. The first good thing that we recommend to a lot of our partners and which happened really well here is the energizing of the ecosystem.
Hello, everyone. So this is that moment when we're supposed to tell them the secret recipe of.
So what it means essentially is, like I said before, every production is essentially a collaboration between multiple stakeholders, and a lot of times you have your connections which essentially lend a lot of voice and endorsement to the product that you create. And activating that entire ecosystem to promote your content is really useful in life, which Tiska did really, really well. By multiple such interactions, I've just put one over here.
And with that, welcome to FC Instant with Tiska Chopra, you guys. I know you've been waiting for a bit, and apologies for that, but she's here now and we're in your house. First things first, I want to tell you guys that it is an absolutely beautiful house.
So what's happening on this video instead is, instead of going live with collaborators on the content itself, we enabled other publishers or other constituents of the ecosystem to essentially talk about Chutney and talk to Tiska while going live on their own page. A great feature that you can use on Facebook is essentially cross-posting of content, which basically says that if you have uploaded a content onto Facebook from your page, that same content can live in multiple pages and draw engagement from all of the sources of distribution that it has. So essentially what it does is that, for example, a news magazine or a movies magazine is covering your production, you can go live on their page and then cross-post that video onto your page as well to keep the engagement going. And then prioritizing quantity with quality. And this is something that is important. Like I said, we don't have a recommendation on how often you should post, but we do believe that the more you post, the more you engage with the audience, and the more current you remain in their minds. Which is why quantity or the amount of posts that you make, amount of interactions you do with the audience is pretty important. But I think, like I said before, I would recommend you to essentially draw the line on quality and ensure that you're sharing content as often as possible, as long as you feel that the content you're sharing is of the quality standards that you love. This is something that we enabled in partnership with her, and of course, like, hats off to the hard work that she's done promoting the video. Of course, the content was amazing, the story was itself pretty gripping, but all of this really helps. I think we have a few other case studies that we'll probably be able to cover if time permits. But these are the 3 broad focus points on this case study that you should probably remember. Energizing the ecosystem by participating with everybody who's involved, building on word of mouth, and staying focused on the quality while amplifying the content that you're sharing. Instagram. I was told that this is the hot topic, and I was told that you should definitely cover Instagram, whether or not you're covering Facebook, but I believe both of those platforms have their uniqueness. Like I said, the magnitude of Facebook is mind-blowing. 2 billion people, 200+ million people in India, and half of them interacting every day. That's the kind of audience you probably do not get, sorry to say this, but you probably do not get in any TV channel in the country right now. So that's why a lot of our emphasis will still remain on Facebook. But Instagram is something that has grown lately tremendously. And India is one of the favorite countries for Instagram for the reason that it's one of the largest and one of the fastest growing market in the entire community. I don't know if we have the India numbers here for Instagram, but it's close to 50+ million already, which is essentially the largest market by the way, we are the largest market. India is the largest market for Facebook as well, that's official. And there are 3 content vehicles as well. Once again, there is video, which again goes without saying works equally well on Instagram as it does on Facebook. Images, I'm sure that's how Instagram started and you're already familiar with. And stories and live video. Once again, I'm emphasizing quite a bit on stories and on live videos because like I talked about Professor McLuhan's book, evolution of media has always taken us closer to more immersive content. And stories, live, all of these are immersive form of the content that we've already known for such a long time. And a lot of times we've seen that people prefer no-filtered and genuine content, authentically coming from people that they know, as opposed to really filtered and managed content. 3 bits of suggestions for partners who are willing and who are keen on using interface in the Instagram interface. Once again, the 3-second audition is important here as well, just to ensure that you're grabbing the attention. In fact, most on Instagram, the attention, the amount of content that is available for people to consume is much higher. Second and third, I think, is essentially what I've already covered. Assume that there is time for, so essentially assume that there is no sound and how will the experience be without sound. Images, avoid using imagery that is busy and a complex one. The zoom, every pixel is important to ensure that. So essentially, a lot of times if you look at the experience that audience have on your page on Instagram, people really explore the images that you've shared. So probably they're going to spend a lot of time and ensuring that the quality of those images and the entire grid remains high is something that's very important. So you need to not consider every image that you posted, but also the entire experience of people landing on your Instagram profile. When in doubt, go square. So essentially, that's one of the suggestions that we give to partners. One way that we encourage our partners to use Instagram is to use stories as the backstage experience. Pretty much like we've used live over the last years, and we've seen a lot of interactions which we just showed. Stories is essentially an immersive form of content which allows you to give a sneak peek into what's happening behind the scenes for people to immerse more on your content. Here are some examples of great stories revealing the making of something like a makeup or a scene that you worked on.
Zoe, you got your bike back! Zoe, you got your bike back!
Wait. Can we put a note right here? We put a note right here?
Oh, I will.
No, like right now.
You stole my bike and I found it.
See, the thing is that every time we promote the content, these shoulder content that allows you to take people closer to your production process and what happened behind the scenes, make people feel closer to the content that were created and feel connected to it. And that's why consumption is higher, engagement is also higher. I'll once again let you read through those three content pieces with advice or stories. Native camera, mix of photos, boomerangs and videos, and consistency. I think consistency is something that remains one of our top suggestions throughout this narrative. We have Instagram Live as well, and the key difference between Facebook Live and Instagram Live is to remember that Instagram Live remains only for 24 hours as opposed to, not even 24 hours in fact, I correct that. Instagram Live remains only for the duration of the live and then the video goes away, whereas on Facebook Live you have the option of storing the live video onto your page later on for later consumption. I'm just conscious that I think we are running out of time, so I'll probably quickly run to this and probably try to take some questions at this point. If you want mine.
That's fine, I can speak. I was just going to say, what's really cool is that Facebook now, as you're scrolling through the news feed, if you have a video, the video is actually starting to play already. You know, they didn't do that before. So again, that's another great thing that, I mean, well, you know, if you posted a picture, that's nothing. People are just going to scroll through. But if you posted a video, as people are scrolling through their newsfeed, it's a very new feature, you know, that the video already starts playing, so they don't have a choice. And then if that's your thing where you're saying you've got 3 seconds, you know, you got 2 seconds right there, and okay, wait, are they going to continue to see it? Or, you know, I think even when you keep scrolling, it still goes on, and it's like, oh, let me turn that off, you know.
A quick thing on that though is that every launch that we make, every change that we make to a product is essentially researched, tried on a smaller set, and the experience is measured before we launch it to larger audience. And therefore this test was launched because we felt that people actually enjoyed that change a lot more. However, to correct you a little bit, you have the choice to go back and change your settings to making sure that the autoplay doesn't happen. So you can change that, but yeah, it's available. I think there's a question right here.
Yeah, very good evening. My question is, I'm not that much on FB, but whenever we try to like somebody, we'll get similar kind of players to like or follow the same theme or things. So how it is done is autoplay or anything. And another regarding monetization, whenever we post, we'll get some pop-up like if you want to boost your page, pay something and all. So can you just throw light on those 2 things? Thank you.
The first thing I'd say is that you said that you're not so much on Facebook. I think let's work together and figure out why you're not so much on Facebook. 2 billion people already are, let's talk. To your point, the first point of essentially suggesting pages, we are mindful of the experience you're having on Facebook. And the fact that you've not spent a lot of time on Facebook is something that we also know. I mean, not we, isn't the algorithm already knows. So what it tries to do is that it tries to show you content that you might be interested in, so you spend a little more time on Facebook. So that's one of the things that we try to do, to ensure that you see content that you're probably going to like, so that you engage in that content. A lot of times there is an upper limit to amount of time you share, you can spend with friends and family content, and I'm assuming that that's what you're using Facebook for right now. So that's why we keep sharing pages that you might like, content that you might be interested in, so that you learn and you engage with Facebook a little more. And that's another interest, of course. To your other point of boosting, I think it's available both ways. You can monetize content that you share on Facebook, and at the same time you can boost the content. As a platform, we essentially ensure that you have tools to do both, and there are communications that happen on that basis as well.
Most of your examples were for personal use. What happens? What happens if you want to use it for marketing purposes for a company, and if you have several users, and is there a strategy for that, and how many people can use that at the same time, and how do you organize that? Who posts what when?
So you're asking about a gated experience for a company?
Absolutely, and is there research about it and marketing strategies that you offer your clients?
In fact, we have something called Workplace. We should talk. We can connect you with Workplace, which essentially is a social experience that companies use. In fact, companies like Walmart, if I'm not wrong, a couple of other large organizations with 200,000 plus employees are already using Walmart to engage with their employees, and it's a huge use case. At Workplace, we want to engage socially with each other. We have friends and connections that we build, and there's a lot of official as well as unofficial connections that we like to build, and Workplace enables that content and probably helps you keep your Facebook experience and your professional experience separate with each other. So it's a B2B content platform, and we can connect with you. You can drop us a note and connect with us.
Sorry, I'm just in the queue, if you don't mind. You mentioned it very briefly in your presentation about cross posts.
Right.
But if you can elaborate a bit, and does that only work for videos, or is it also for status or pictures?
It's only for videos. Like we showed you the statistics, videos essentially lead to a lot more reach and engagement than any other content platform. What cross-post essentially does is that, so for example, when you upload a video, which is resting on your page, and every other collaborator for your marketing is essentially sharing that video, you're distributing the engagement of that video. So probably engaging a 1 million audience in your page, 2 million on some other page, and probably 100,000 in the third page. What cross-posting allows you to do is that there's just one instance of the content that is uploaded and it's on your page, and you do a back-end handshake with other pages so that it's shown in their feed as well and it's shown to their audience as well. And as a result, just one second, I'll complete this. And as a result, the engagement on that single content piece gives amplification and gives you the benefit as well as the others the benefit. So cross-posting is that, but it's only available for video sets.
Did you say back-end
handshake?
Handshake? Yeah. I thought it was sharing.
No, it's not sharing. Cross-posting is different from sharing. So when you're posting a video, there is a handshake button that you'll be able to see, or a cross-posting button that you'll be able to see on your publishing tool. We can guide you through that process, which essentially sends a notification to the other page that you're collaborating with, and they have to accept or reject to take it forward.
By the way, where are you based? Which city?
I'm based in Mumbai.
You know what? I've been trying to get hold of your Gurgaon office and Delhi office, and I just can't.
All of you,
I really need help in connecting and learning much more.
For all of you, you can reach out to us on this email address. As a matter of fact, we are present here in Film Bazaar and right in front of the screening room for the entire duration of the event, so you can probably connect with us at any point of time. I'll take the next question.
When you have only 5,000 maximum friends in Facebook, where you don't have that kind of limits in Instagram. Now, for example, as a filmmaker, if I have to reach out to more people, and I probably, as of now, as we speak, I have some very close to 5,000 friends. So there is a limit that I'm going to reach very soon. How do I go beyond those 5,000 numbers?
A lot of times we encourage, especially content producers and use cases that you just shared, to go to a page as opposed to using a profile. The first limitation of your profile is the 5,000 fans.
Why do you have that?
So there is two perspectives on this. First is friends is a real connection that you have. And that's why we want to limit profile usage for personal and individual use case. Whereas if you want to connect with an audience which is general, public in nature, we encourage you to use pages. Now you can use the same stuff on the profile as well. If you enable the follow button, and people will be able to follow your content. However, a lot of the content examples that I shared to you about, for example, cross-posting, is not available on a profile. It's only available on pages. So I'd encourage if you want to build a community, target a large audience, create a page right away. We can help you transfer all of your fans or followers from your profile to your page and use your profile for your friends and family.
One thing you just mentioned was monetization. How
Right.
would you monetize content on Facebook? Because it's a very personal community we are talking about.
Right.
Another thing I want to ask is related to this answer. What is better, page or a group?
Oh, very good question. The first one on monetization, there are 3 different routes available to you, and depending on the kind of content you're going with. So your objective might be to monetize content on the audience that you've developed on Facebook, which is essentially the fans or the reach that you have for your content already. There are 2 or 3 ways that are available to do that right now. Actually 2 established ways. The first is branded content, where you essentially engage with a brand to sponsor a part of your content or become a part of the engagement itself. And you have to probably enable them to look at the content as well, which is what branded content allows you to do. I should have covered this here, but I think there is a tool available on the page when you're sharing to essentially use branded content. Secondly, if you have the objective of taking traffic from Facebook to your own or operated site, there are multiple ways of doing that. So for instance, we allow instant articles, which essentially takes the experience that you have on your own website to live within Facebook. And so the reason for doing that is that essentially when you move traffic, when you move user from one app to another, especially in a 2G heavy market like India, there's a large amount of drop-off that happens. So as a user, it's very hard to move from one app to another experience while you're consuming content. So we see that a lot of times when you try to do that, instead of going to your site, people just drop off and move on. So instead of that, we have built a native experience for our website, and then you can monetize that audience either through a direct sold ad inventory on your own website or through Audience Network, which allows your inventory to be populated with ads that are sold on Facebook. So those are the two broad options available. A third option that is on its way for India right now, it's being tested in the United States, is the ad breaks program, which essentially allows you to insert ads in the videos that you're posting, which is something that you're probably already familiar with on different platforms. You view a video for a minute or more, I think 3 minutes, and then there is a 30-second ads, and then you can position ads at different stages on your video. So those are the three options that are currently available for monetization. On your second question, page versus groups. So like I talked about profiles already, pages is something that I'll encourage for production houses, brands, creators, content creators, influencers to use. A group is something that I'd encourage you to use if you want to build a community. So a lot of times, communities exist with similar or same objectives. So for example, I have a community of people who all worked in my previous organization. And that community exchanges information about what's happening in the company, how many people have moved on, and they get added to that community as well. And we can exchange notes about what was good, what was not. So it's a very secret group. It allows you to maintain that engagement. And we see a lot of engagement happening on group admins as well. And we actually internally encourage groups a lot because it's actually one of the major use cases of Facebook. People love to build communities on Facebook. In fact, a lot of great revolutions have started because of groups. So I'd encourage that dimension. Essentially, profile for your own use, for your own presence on Facebook, page for your company, your brand, or your identity that you want to create on Facebook and build an audience for, and a group for a community that you want to build. Is that clear? Do you understand?
Now can I ask my question? Thank you. Hi.
Hi.
Like last year when we had a workshop, similar kind of a workshop. See, but now Facebook has started monetization and everything. They are charging money to boost your posts and all that. So there was a talk last time also that when and how they are planning to go the YouTube way by paying the clients. Is there anything in...
I just talked about that. So essentially, that's being tested in the United States right now, and it's limited to the audience that is currently on that platform. India is usually the next market, or a lot of products the first market for piloting it out. And I'm expecting during the course of this year to be available there as well.
Those boosts are also not organic likes, right? When you pay and buy, they are just,
they're not organic likes. They're not people you know who have liked it. They are some fake. I mean, it increases in numbers, but does it help?
Yeah. Let me just explain how it works. So when you post a content on Facebook, what it does is that it is shown to a small, and I think it's important to understand from the UC perspective as well. It's shared to a small audience. So we believe very strongly in the A/B experimentation of every piece of content that we write. So what we do is every piece of content is shared to a 10% of your audience base, and based on the engagement, and 10% is not the right number. Probably I'm not using the right number here, just for argument's sake. And based on the engagement that we see on that group, it increases a little bit, and then it increases a little bit more as it continues to grow. A lot of times when the interactions on that content is pretty high, chances are will be shown to all of the people who are consistently on your page. When you boost the content, you essentially override that. So what you do is that irrespective of whether the content is, the person has essentially liked your page, but if you boost it, so boosting always requires you to identify the audience that you're targeting. So everybody who has, for instance, liked that kind of content, preferred ads, and essentially is in that subset will start seeing that content. You can actually geogate and restrict audience in a particular region, particular interest topics. You can actually amplify as well for a particular audience. So all of that put together, we try to ensure that that content is shown to people who might be interested in the similar stuff. Otherwise, boosting won't work. So we definitely try to do that. But like I said, it's not somebody who has like traditionally engaged with your platform. Sure. Anupama is saying this, we just have one.
Sure. Recently, he touched upon a word which we missed, and that is fake. He missed on that word, and I just want to add my experience. So I'll be on a particular post, and I live in Gurgaon, landlocked area, and I selected in my potential group people who love yachting, you know, cruises. And I found people from Bhiwadi's, you know, like my post. I mean, I'm just wondering how.
People from Bhiwani, like.
Bhiwadi, this is a small little town near Gurgaon, a village, okay? I'm saying, how does this work? You know, and then I read another article talking about fake likes and stuff like that on Facebook back in the US.
So there are two different subjects. Let me address on both. The first is, chances are that there are people on Bhiwadi who have liked or interacted with pages that talk about that. Whether they're fake or not, by the way, just at the outset, we know that there are sometimes elements that try to use the platform for, wrong uses. But I think Facebook is the closest and the most authentic platform that you'll see in terms of authenticity of the audience, because people are generally in their own identities within Facebook. And we take that very seriously. In fact, I have in my own tenure of a little more than a year, I've seen the amount of seriousness that Facebook gives to a fake profile or a fake kind of a person existing on the platform. So we take that down proactively, and the algorithm does about 90% of the work on its own. But imagine that on a scale of 2 billion, 10% is also, or even 1% is also a magnitude of number. So coming to the second point, what remains sometimes is fake, and we have to take it down. If you report it to us, we'll always take it down. This is the email address for you to probably report it to us. Having said that, just because a person is based on a particular region, whether they like it or not, is probably not the right conclusion to draw. You might want to think that there might be people who have actually watched a video or a content about yachting and they wanted to follow that content. It can actually happen. And you not believe, when you have interactions happening at that scale, there is no community that has no audience on Facebook, and that's why it's a platform for all ideas. You might have the strangest of ideas in the world, and you'll be able to find a group or a community to build around that. Sorry, does that answer your question, by the way?
Actually, not really, but fine.
Sure.
I'm sorry, we'll just have to wrap up. We've really run out of time.
Well, thank you. Like I said, we are here. This email address is available to you. We are in this campus as well to engage. Please feel free to reach out. I hope this was useful. Thank you.
Now, if you want to carry on the